Hi everyone. It's me. Welcome back to this channel on narcissism. And today we're going to talk about a very serious topic, parental alienation. And if you're new here, please hit that subscribe button because we'd love to have you join our community. So let's talk about parental alienation. Now it is estimated by some experts that it happens between 1 to 2 million times a year in the United States alone. And many people think it's often part of high conflict divorce or custody battles. However, it's actually more complicated than that. Most people don't know how dangerous parental alienation can be, not just for the children but for the targeted parent as well. Parental alienation is when one parent basically turns a child against the other parent. By making false accusations about the other parent, they may tell the child lies about the other parent, like the other parent doesn't love them anymore, doesn't want them, doesn't care about them, or the other parent may do something terrible things like abuse the child, doesn't take care of the child, abandon the child, is mean to the child, things like that. This is what's called active alienation. There's also passive alienation, which is when the parent doesn't actually say bad things about the other parent but doesn't say anything positive either. The parent may not even be actively encouraging the child to spend time with the other parent or may make it clear the child would be better off without the other parent. Now some parents who are actively alienating their children might not even be aware that they are doing it. They may truly believe the lies they're telling their children about the other parent. Many of these parents have been through difficult childhoods themselves and have suffered from neglect or abuse and hold on to the belief that it was their other parent who was the good one while their own parent was the bad one. In effect, they're repeating the same destructive patterns of behavior in their own relationships and with their own children. So now let us talk about the main reason why most narcissists will use their children as pawns against their co-parent. A narcissist has a fragile ego and can't tolerate being rejected or abandoned. When the relationship ends, it feels like they are being rejected or abandoned, which means they need to get back at the other person who did this to them. It's not uncommon for the narcissist to fantasize about getting back together with their ex. But if the other person shows no interest in reconciliation, the narcissist will then turn their attention to the children. The narcissist will try to win back the love of their ex through the children, by showering them with gifts, forcing them to send pictures of themselves, guilt-tripping them into spending time with the children, or using the children as little spies. To gather information about the other parent, narcissists will say things like, "You haven't told me how your mother is since she moved away," or "How is your father doing? Tell me everything." And the child is stuck in the middle of all this. They feel guilty because they have to play messenger between the two parents. They're trying to please the narcissistic parent, but in the process, they're damaging their relationship with the other parent. In addition, if the narcissist feels the other parent left them, they may try to convince the child that it wasn't the right thing to do. They may tell the child that they were a good parent, a wonderful parent, and that they must be sad that they don't live with them anymore. If the child doesn't buy it, they'll keep pushing until they get the reaction they want. In some cases, the narcissist will completely cut off all contact between the child and the other parent. They'll make up excuses like the other parent doesn't want to see the child, doesn't love the child, is too busy for the child, or even that the other parent is dead. Sometimes the narcissist will go as far as to legally change the child's last name to their own, so that the child doesn't even have the same last name as the other parent. Can you imagine how confusing and upsetting that is for a child? These are just a few ways that a narcissist will use their children as pawns against their co-parent. Now, it's important to understand why narcissists do this. Most narcissists are incapable of dealing with rejection. They can't stand the idea that someone doesn't want to be with them or that someone could reject them. They have to be the center of attention and they have to be admired and praised by others. If they're not, they become angry and bitter and seek revenge. When a marriage ends, the narcissist feels rejected and abandoned. They can't cope with the idea that they may not want it, and they can't stand the fact that they have to share custody of their children with the other parent. They want all the attention and all the control, so they use their children as pawns to get back at the other parent. The narcissist thinks that if they can't have the love of their ex, then nobody can. They'll try to convince their children that the other parent doesn't love them or that they way better off without them. They'll tell the child that the other parent is a bad person and that they should be ashamed of them. They'll also try to prevent the child from having a relationship with the other parent. They may stop the child from seeing their other parent or talking to them on the phone. They may also try to keep the child from celebrating holidays or special occasions with the other parent. Now let's look at the impact of parental alienation on the child. Children who are alienated from one parent suffer from all kinds of psychological problems, including low self-esteem, anxiety, and depression. They are also more likely to have behavioral problems and to engage in risky behaviors, such as substance abuse and delinquency. Alienated children are also more likely to have problems in their own relationships as adults. They may have difficulty trusting others or may be overly dependent on their partners. They may also have difficulty regulating their emotions and may lash out physically or verbally when they are upset. Studies show that parental alienation can have a profound effect on a child's development and can lead to serious mental health problems later in life. Another point I want to make is that parental alienation is a form of emotional abuse. The alienated parent is often left feeling helpless and hopeless. They may feel like they've lost their child forever and like there's nothing they can do to get them back. This can lead to feelings of grief and despair. The alienated parent may also feel isolated and alone. They may feel like they have no one to turn to for help and that they're stuck in this situation with no way out. Another issue with parental alienation is that it can create a rift between siblings. For example, if one sibling is alienated from one parent and the other sibling is alienated from the other parent, it can create a bond between the siblings that's based on resentment and anger towards the parents. This can lead to a breakdown in communication and a lack of trust within the family. Another danger of parental alienation is that it can lead to a loss of contact between the child and extended family members. This can include grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, and other relatives. If the child is cut off from their extended family, they may not have the opportunity to develop relationships with them or learn about their culture and history. This can lead to a sense of identity and belonging. Another problem with parental alienation is that it can lead to a loss of cultural and religious traditions. If the child is cut off from one parent, they may not have the opportunity to learn about their culture and religion. This can lead to a sense of disconnection and alienation from the community. If the parent who has custody of the child is a narcissist, they may use the child as a pawn to punish the other parent. For example, they may use a child as a little spy to gather information about the other parent or force the child to listen in on phone calls or video chats with the other parent. They may also use a child to control the other parent or manipulate them into doing what they want. They may threaten to take away visitation rights unless the other parent does what they want. In some cases, the narcissistic parent may even use the child as a way to continue the relationship with the other parent. They may encourage the child to call the other parent and talk to them on a regular basis, even though it's clear that the child is uncomfortable with it. They may also use the child as a way to monitor the other parent. They may require the child to report back on what the other parent said or did during the visit. This is especially problematic if the child is old enough to form their own opinions and make their own decisions. By using the child as a pawn in this way, the narcissistic parent is able to maintain a sense of control over the other parent, even after the relationship has ended. They're also able to use the child as a source of supply, which means they were able to get the child to do things for them or provide them with information that they want. This can be especially damaging to the child because it puts them in the middle of a conflict between two parents. It can also be very stressful for the child and can lead to a lot of anxiety and emotional distress. The best way to protect yourself and your children from parental alienation is to stay one step ahead of the narcissist. If you're able to anticipate their moves, you can better protect yourself and your children from their manipulations. This can be difficult, but it's important to remember that the narcissist is always trying to gain the upper hand, so it's important to be prepared for anything. Additionally, it is important to be aware of the signs of parental alienation and to take action if you notice any red flags. This may mean talking to your child about their relationship with the other parent, or setting boundaries with the other parent regarding contact with your child. Finally, it's important to seek support from friends, family, or a therapist if you're dealing with parental alienation. It can be helpful to talk to someone about what you're going through and get advice on how to cope. Dealing with a narcissist can be incredibly challenging, especially when they use your children as pawns against you. But it's important to remember that you're not alone. There are resources available to help you cope with this difficult situation and protect yourself and your children from further harm. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please like and subscribe. Thanks again.